Hola y bienvenidos a Enigma, un canal donde ya sabéis que hablamos de cosas muy raras. Y en esta ocasión, como siempre que tenemos un invitado, tenemos un vídeo muy especial porque tengo con nosotros a un invitado que es el señor Alan Steinfeld, sorry. And from now on, this video is going to be in English, so I will add subtitles. So Alan, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to introduce you a bit for our audience. So Alan is a writer, TV and radio producer and speaker. He is a member of the Friends of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, vice president of the Association of Psychotherapy, representative of the UN for the Academy for Future Science, and he also has a YouTube channel named New Realities. Is that right?
Yes, New Realities, yes.
Okay, and he is the author of the book we are going to speak about today, which is called Making Contact, Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence, which has recently been translated into Spanish. So, Alan.
Wait, the Spanish name is what of the book? So
En Contacto.
Okay.
Lo podéis encontrar por ese nombre. I will add links in the description box and everything. So Alan, besides everything I've just said, who is Alan Steinfeld?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure that out myself a long time. How do we know who we are? Because all of us are so infinite, really. And, we're not our name, we're not our history, we're not the personality. We're some bigger aspect of totality. But for me and my journey, I've always been interested in the mysterious, in the unknown, in the, not even occult, beyond occult, just like what's the energy underneath this reality? Why are we here? That's my interest. Why are we here on planet Earth? Who are we? And what is this interface with the mystery? There's a mystery here that no one really has an answer to. So I really feel UFOs, ETs are a big part of the mystery because they come in and out of our reality. People see them and then they don't, it disappears. So, Jung said that the UFO phenomenon is an aspect of the unknown, of that mysterious part that is a part of us that's returning to remind us that we're not just machines. But I think it's more than that. I think it's an actual phenomenon. It's not a manifestation of just our psychology or our need. It's actually is an existence to these craft that people see now all over the world in increasing numbers. It's more and more that these people are seeing in every country. Of course, in Spain, England, France, Italy, South America is really a big place for seeing. So something's happening, and this book, En Contacto, is a collection of essays by the best people in the field that I know, because I go to all the conferences and read all the books that have been researching this for 50 years. And, none of them really agree about what's really going on, but there's not a disagreement. It's just like everyone has a piece of the elephant, the 7 blind men and the elephant, that story. Well, it's like that. Everyone has their own piece. And my job is to put it all together and create the elephant,
All right, nice. Now, in your book, the main issue you speak about is contact. What is it for you exactly, and how does it work?
That's a good, complex question. Because contact, ultimately, I think, is making contact with ourselves. It's like we have to step outside the box, step outside the cultural box, step outside these little Zoom boxes that we're in. It's like Plato's parable of the cave. Everyone's just looking at shadows on the wall, and someone then says, no, this world is not shadows, but right now we're just looking at the shadows then. contact is making contact with ourselves, with the earth, and this unknown mystery that's knocking on our door. So how do we do that? Well, we have to look to see first that there's more than the box that we're living in. There's more to our reality than what we've been told. We have to look for this bigger picture. Reality is nothing we've learned in school or in religion or in the media. It's a kind of inside job. So the more we go inside, the more we realize how infinite we are outside, that we're connected to this infinite world outside. But you have to go in before you go out. Otherwise, we just see more phenomena. But this is not just about phenomena, it's about us in a way I have yet to really understand. But it's somehow about me and you and who we really are, and taking care of the earth. It's about, we're not going to have any company until we clean up our room. Didn't your mother tell you that?
Yes.
We have to clean up the mess we made. And we have made a mess. Everyone, all the Western world particularly, has, just dumped their plastic bottles in the ocean or in landfills, and there's no sense of contact with the earth. So yeah, for me, it's about all those things: the inner, the outer, the earth, each other.
All right. Now, one idea that transcends from your book is that this phenomenon, the UFO phenomenon, is trying to make contact with us. Now, in your opinion, why would this be happening? Why are they getting from it? Why would they want to do it?
Right, because we're so barbaric, and we're so primitive here, and our favorite pastime as a civilization, human civilization, is tribal warfare. That's been going on for 10,000 years. This country invades that country and that, and and there's cycles of that. So why would they want to come now? Because I think the planet, this vibration of this existence, is moving, is accelerating, and we're going more into their world, and we really need to grow up if we're going to meet the others on an even playing field. Even though we may seem separate right now, me and you, Sonia, are connected in consciousness. We're talking to each other, we're on the same frequency, but that's also true. Consciousness is also pervasive throughout the whole world. All human beings share a consciousness, and we also share it with other beings on other planets. Consciousness is non-local. When I've been teaching remote viewing, maybe you should teach my remote viewing course, because we use consciousness to project non-locally. We use this awareness. Mm-hmm. And so our primitive place of war and pollution and greed is affecting other beings, because even though they're not here, they're connected to us, because consciousness is singular. So we're disturbing them because we're at such a low level. And some of us aren't, but a lot of the planet is. So it's about, if you walk into a room and someone's had an argument, you feel it because it's in the vibrational field. So it's time we clean up our vibrational field to be ready for the gifts that the universe has to offer us. I mean, we don't need to be dependent on gasoline and fossil fuel, if that's what it really is. And there's access to energy right here in this little space. This is somehow how these beings are traveling. But, are we going to turn that into a weapon? I mean, why would they give us that if we're going to weaponize something that's such a gift? I mean, imagine if we had free energy, we could cultivate the deserts, we'd have abundant food, people wouldn't have to be enslaved to an economic structure that makes them work for energy, So I think with free energy, I think that's really the big problem. It's not whether ETs or whatever are here. Do corporations want to give up their hold on controlling people and access to energy? I think that's the bigger question.
Okay, I really have to take the tangent here.
Yeah.
What have you seen doing remote vision?
Yes. Well, if you believe it, because when I teach remote viewing classes for making contact, we practice first with things that we know. Okay, I said there's a target here, this person's here, can you see it? And when the whole class comes into an alignment, I say, okay, we're ready to go off planet. So we go off planet together as a group, and we've been to lots of places. We've been to TRAPPIST 8. Do you know what TRAPPIST 8 is? It's and the Webb telescope is looking at it in such a sign. So we went to one planet. I said, okay, let's go to planet, I think it's E. It's the 5th planet from that sun. We didn't really see anything there, but then we went to planet F in the TRAPPIST 8 star system, and there were beings there that didn't look human, but were welcoming us, and they welcomed us as consciousness beings, but and so they were friendly. They were, I wouldn't say expecting us, but they weren't surprised that when we showed up there, me and my group
How
of
did
travelers.
they look like?
They looked very wiry. I mean, this is my remembrance of it. They didn't look quite insect-like because they were friendlier than that, but they were, I would say they looked very thin and wiry with this intelligence, and their communication was more telepathic. It was all telepathic, actually. So, you know, life is an emergent property of the universe. It's emergent. It means it just, and intelligent life is an emergent property of life, intelligence. And so, because we're not living in a closed system. You know, if you're living in a closed system, then Newton's 3rd law, entropy, I think it's the second or third law, where systems wind down from complex to less complex. But in an open system, things build towards complexity. They get more and more complex. So we're in an open system because we're being fed, my belief, by other dimensions. So intelligence is the evolutionary product of life. And so there's intelligence throughout. We have to just be willing to recognize it. But yes, it is throughout the cosmos. And it's not always physical intelligence. There's lots of people having contact experience with light beings or interdimensional beings, ultra celestials, people call them. So this is such a simple world, this 3D world where human beings think they're the only ones. As soon as we open our minds, and you can do that with remote viewing or tuning in or activating your pineal pituitary system, you start to get visions. You know, it's the world of the occult, you know, in a good way. You know, it's like we tune into these other dimensions because these beings want to communicate with us, and I think want to help us for the most part. You have to, you know, be aware of who you're talking to. You have to, do you feel love? Do you feel connection? Do you feel like they're giving you energy as opposed to taking energy from you? So we have to, I mean, I think the occult, metaphysics, the esoteric, they're very much a part of making contact, because these beings, they mostly show up in our dreams. Because if they show up right in front of us, me and you right now, Sonia, even me, even though I've had experience, it's kind of so weird. It's their frequency is different, their physical frequency. So it immediately alters our state of awareness. It's like being high or something. You start to lose the lucidity of presence when you have these beings in front of you there, because their vibration is so different than ours. It's hard to stay conscious. So we have to practice lucid awareness. Enseño, I think. Is that called enseño in Spanish? Enseño? Like
ensueño.
Isn't that sort of a way for dreaming awake or something?
Oh, lucid dreaming, you mean?
Yes.
Sueños lúcidos.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. So, okay, so that would be the reason they kind of do not do an open contact, I believe. Because why? What's the reason they only contact like such individual to individual, but not the whole.
Because most people are ready. If your mind has to be open, or else they're probably contacting a lot of people, but their awareness is not ready to understand the essence of that contact. So people may have a dream and they say that's a weird dream. I saw these beings, but it's not just a dream. So if you say, maybe that's not just a dream, I think these beings were really here, that's a doorway opening. And it doesn't mean you're crazy, you know? It means like maybe you're actually more evolved. So they are contacting people, and they're contacting people more and more these days because of the vibrational frequency of this planet is shifting. It's not as dense as it used to be. It's shifting its vibratory rate. Its frequencies are getting faster, where time is slowing down in a way. Everything is changing in the human dimension. You know, after 2 years of being inside, I think that was part of the preparation, the COVID retreat. Everyone's been in their home and they had time to be with themselves and prepare. Of course, it's been tragic for, yes, a lot of families, but also it's been an evolutionary moment for human race, collectively.
Just for the pleasure of playing the devil's advocate.
Sure.
And just because I want to have your opinion on this.
Yes, anything.
Now, if they don't show up themselves publicly because we wouldn't be able to process what we saw or something. Let's say they just land in front of the White House, like in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Even though if there are some people who wouldn't be able to process, they would have to at that time. So why do not force that? And that's it.
But they are doing that. They was a big flyover over the U.S. Capitol in 1952. There was a big world sighting in 1997 in Phoenix. So they're coming and going. Mm-hmm. So in order to show people that there is a reality, and like they come, they show up, and people have had contact, of course, and they haven't been ready. People are freaked out and traumatized. Other people who are ready say, oh yeah, there's a communication. George Adamski, there were lots of people in the 50s and 60s. Betty and Barney Hill, they were a little freaked out, but Betty Hill said, no, they're here, they're friendly. So they are showing up, but that's happening more and more. I think we're gonna have more group sightings. So it's not like all at once they're showing up in the sky, because that would be, I think it would be too much, but a little bit here, a little bit there. Eventually people say, of course there's UFOs here. Of course there's beings visiting us from another planet. I've seen them. Like you ask a group of people right now, I would say 5 out of 10 people have seen a UFO or know someone who has. So it's a slow assimilation. And when we really come to the place where, of course, it's self-evident, you know, that was Schopenhauer's 3 levels of truth, you know. First, the truth is denied, then it's ridiculed, then it's it's accepted. So we're coming out of the ridicule phase. And now there's just been a bill passed by the US Congress. It's called NDAA for fiscal year 23. Anyway, in there, it's people who've been sworn to secrecy, who've worked for the government, who's been involved in this, in their non-disclosure agreements, are now free to come forward and speak about the UFO phenomenon without getting prosecuted. So that's a really big plus. So this year, 2023, it's going to be a lot coming out from the US government and maybe other places around the world, but definitely in the US, some of the whistleblowers that have been sworn to secrecy, that haven't been allowed to speak, will start to share their secrets. So we're about to get an awakening, especially for people. Yes.
We'll see. I hope that happens. Now, this thing you said that this has been made like step by step. It's bringing it back to the book. It reminds me of the text from Grant Cameron and his world theory, which I really did enjoy.
Yes.
And he referred that both governments and the intelligences behind this UFO thing are disclosing information like a drop by drop by drop.
Yes.
You do agree with that, right?
Well, what also is so great in that essay by Grant Cameron, I just want to say each chapter in the book is written by a different expert. Grant Cameron is an expert in the phenomena from Canada. And he says, even if you've seen a UFO, you are part of the phenomena. There are no innocent bystanders. It's not like, oh, I saw something. No, their consciousness is so keen, they can tell when you're aware of them. So it's little by little because, you know, it may take 100 years or 200 years, but at some point it's like, well, sure, whoever thought we were alone, whoever thought the earth was flat, whoever thought we were the center of the universe. It's that same kind of ridiculous argument. You know, if you go back, people thought the earth was flat. They thought the earth was the center of the cosmos. They thought the earth was the only place for life. So it's along those lines of who would think something that stupid, that the earth was the only place for life. And a cosmos whose elements are uniform. There's nothing different. I mean, it's a nice planet. It's one of my favorite planets, Earth, but there's other Earth-like planets throughout this galaxy and the billions of other galaxies that exist. Every star has at least, I mean, they're seeing every star has planets. It's a natural formation of the cosmos itself. And that's why I'm saying life is an emergent property. So yes.
Okay, also in the book, just so the audience can have some kind of context. There are essays or texts, not just from Grant Cameron, but Alan, I don't know how did he manage, but we have a text from Linda Moulton-Howe, another one from Whitley Strieber. You also have John Mack. How did you do it?
Well, I'll tell you, I knew John Mack. I should show you a picture of John. And of course, John died 20 years ago. But I was aware that there were essays that he had written that were never published in any book. So, and he's one of the most important people in this movement. He was a trained psychiatrist. He was a teacher of psychiatry at Harvard University. And he started to meet people saying they've had contact and abduction. And he said, first he thought these people must be crazy. And it does sound crazy, but then once he started talking to these people, he says, these people are having a real experience and they're no more crazy than anyone else. And there's actually more sanity to them. So anyway, I contacted John Mack's archivist, Will, and you can go to the Johnny Mack website. And I had heard this talk by John online, and I said, I'd love to use this in my book. And he checked with John Mack's family. And it fits in so well because he was such a visionary thinker that even though that essay was written 20 years ago, it's continuous because what he says in that essay, that this is a challenge to the existing worldview, I think it's really important to include that because people live in a very narrow frame. They live in a very small box. And when something comes along that's outside the box, most people will ignore it or deny it. But John Mack's mentor was a guy named Thomas Kuhn. Have you heard of Thomas Kuhn?
Well, I did while reading your book.
Oh, well, Thomas Kuhn wrote a really important book, an essay in the early 60s called Theories of Scientific Revolution. He says, science only changes when you include an anomaly, an anomalous situation that's outside the existing paradigm. So, and most scientists will reject the anomaly as merely some unusual occurrence. They won't include that into their theory. The real scientists say, no, our theories of the universe are not right because this other thing exists. This is how meteorites, like everyone thought in the 1890s that rocks did not fall from the sky. Rocks could not fall from the sky. It was impossible until someone said that they did. So rocks fell from the sky, and that changed the whole understanding of meteors, asteroids, everything that's out there in space. So so John Mack was an important part in this book. He plays an important part in the abduction scenario, and he's still referenced worldwide by UFO experts as like a key figure in accepting this phenomena on a really coherent level, because he knows what insanity looks like, and it doesn't look like people claiming abduction. Those people are actually traumatized. They don't want to come forward. They're not coming forward because they want to be famous. They're coming forward because something very disturbing has happened to them. And that's actually the topic of my next book, Beyond Contact.
Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. I didn't know that.
Yes. I haven't told many people that, but yes.
Ooh, Beyond Contact. Do we have a date?
No. I'm still working on it. No, I'm still going to my publisher and saying, is this something that sounds good? I mean, but yeah, I'm very excited because we human beings are traumatized by what they don't know. So the more we can go beyond the trauma of meeting the other. I mean, people are traumatized just by, or not traumatized, but people have an innate prejudice when they meet someone from another country, another race, another religion. I mean, other people are saying, wow, who are you? I want to get to know you. So, I mean, if you've been brought up in a very closed-minded awareness, you're going to fear what you don't know. Other people welcome it and say, oh my God, what can I learn from you? That's the Aquarian perspective. I'm an Aquarian, so the Aquarian perspective is, I'm seeking out what's different, what I don't know. I mean, I love traveling the world and going to as many cultures and being parts of as many rituals and ceremonies and religious understandings and spiritual, because I want to know it all. You know, that's my adventure.
Next thing I wanted to ask you, because the account of your own abduction, which was narrated in first person, while I was reading it, it kept me glued to the book. Now, I want you to go a bit on it so the audience can know what this is all about.
Well, you know, my contact is not as dramatic as a lot of people. You know, I think, you know, it was strange. I met this woman. I was traveling across the US. We had this instant connection. And then I kept going to the West Coast. She joined me on the West Coast. It felt like the whole thing was set up. And then we were driving east from California or Oregon, really, back to New York. And we slept by this one night. You know, it's a long drive. It's like 4 days in a car. And so we slept by this little deserted canal, and we had a really strange experience. We felt like we were frozen in the night. We felt like we, you know, couldn't, like we got up in the same position we went to bed in. And do you even remember? I don't ever remember actually what position, because you just fall asleep, but somehow it was like there was this mold of time that was created for the both of us, and we were taken out of our ordinary time space and put back in. So I didn't really know what happened the next morning, but I knew something strange had happened. And so, and the next day though, or a couple of days later, I found this mark on the back of my knee, this 4-prong puncture mark. And I immediately connected it to that night. And I started to ask around, and I just happened, by coincidence or not, run into people already in the abduction world, in the UFO world. I was open to it, but I wasn't totally so obsessed with it like I am now. I'm obsessed. So I happened to meet some people from Bud Hopkins' group. You know who Bud Hopkins was?
Yeah, Missing Time.
Missing Time, and he's also the person that
Intruders.
John Mack and Whitley Strieber to the phenomena. So I met Bud. You know, he became a friend, and his people said, yes, that's an abduction, Mark. So immediately it freaked me out because, you know, everyone wants to know what's really going on. And so I kind of became I kind of got a little traumatized, but also really interested in the topic. And I did have a regression once where I saw these beings. And the thing about regressions, it doesn't happen as if you remember what's happened yesterday. It's more dreamlike. It's more like very vague. It's like,
yeah,
it's abstract in a way. So people who say they've had these regressions and they remember it, it's not exactly true. It's more like this, because you're not remembering a conscious experience. You're remembering like a traumatized experience. The whole definition of trauma is not being present for what's going on. And so there's a traumatic interchange that is blocked out of the human psyche. So I did have a regression years later to see these beings at the back of my van. Really, I was sleeping in a van. They opened the door with this light, and I didn't get that far in my regression to see what they actually did to me, but it was enough to see there were beings there, and they sort of levitated us out of the car, which is really weird. And
how were they?
They weren't in my regression, they weren't that scary. I have to say, they didn't look like grays. They had these big heads though, but they didn't look like you see the pictures on Whitley Strieber's book Communion. They weren't like that for me. But of course, there's many different types. And
could it be your brain trying to protect itself?
I was going to say that, yes, it could be a screen memory. I think you've had abductions, Sonia. You know a lot about this. I think you must have.
Not that I know of.
I think you should be regressed. I think we should do a regression on the show with you, and you go back to that.
I don't think that nothing like that ever happened to me.
But why are you so interested in this?
I don't know. I just am.
You don't know, you just are. That's the first sign of being abducted. No, I'm kidding. No,
don't
I'm kidding.
scare me.
you might be. You have all the signs of a, you know, your interest. I mean, it's not just that it's interesting. I think, I don't know about you, but for me, it's an obsession. It's like, I want to know everything there is. And if I don't find it in a book, I'm going to write my own book about what's going on. So,
well, for me, it's like I've always been a really, really curious person, but I would recognize that I've felt interesting in this topic since pretty young age. That's all I'm going to say. Now, there was a concept you mentioned on the book,
yes,
which I really did like, which, okay, I read this in Spanish. I don't know how you word this in English. Something like time mold.
Yes, a time, like it's as if like there's a film strip and you freeze the frame, and that, and then you have this continuation of this, but that what happens after the freeze is cut out, and then it's looped together. So you have something happening that this unconscious mind is aware of, and the body's aware of, but the conscious awareness is not able to remember it. So we're taken out of this time space into another, and then we're brought back into this time space. That's the interesting thing. So, and then I saw evidence of this frozen time thing that Bob Lazar saw at Area 51. He saw a candle burning in this chamber, and they applied this, I guess, alien technology, and the candle was still lit, but it stopped burning as if the candle was frozen in time. So I felt that happened to me that night, that we were frozen in time, because they're somehow able to manipulate our awareness of time space. I don't know how. I don't think anyone understands how, but there's a time-space manipulation, and I've heard Linda say this as well, for most abductions, contact. This is what Bud Hopkins' Missing Time was all about. It was about this distortion of time-space.
Would it be just like freezing the scenery where they take you out? Like, you know, most people say that this looks like theater or a pantomime. They are representing for us, at least what we are able to recognize consciously. So that's why I felt like, while reading it, I felt like if they were freezing the scene, so they can bring you back to the same scene, same posture, same place, distance, time, whatever.
Yeah, they're freezing the scene, but I think somehow they're also, I don't know if this is true, freezing our bodies in that old time, and another part of us is taken out, but it's also physical. That other person, I had a physical mark on my, like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe they froze the world around us, but they're able to put us exactly back in the same position we were taken. That happens when people are driving cars and they're abducted, and the whole car and everything's abducted, and then they're put back on the road and the car's still driving. I mean, how is that possible? I mean, even for the people driving the car. So
no, before such an event happens, many witnesses refer that it's like the space freezes around them. They stop, if they are at the woods, they stop hearing the noises, everything goes quiet. It's like they control that environment for a while.
Yes, it's called the Oz effect. It's
the
like
Oz factor,
yeah, the Oz factor. And you do, and sometimes I did go out. I was in Hawaii and I was with someone and we were both talking about this, and we went out of the car and it was like, it was silence. It was just like, and I thought maybe something happened there. I started to see these ET faces in this underground cave. So I don't know. This is the mystery. This is why it's so fascinating intellectually, this phenomena. It's like, how do we understand something beyond comprehension? This is really what is so obsessive to me. How do we cognize something we can't recognize? Or how do we recognize something that's not in our field of perception? How do we gain access to this, what I call my company, new realities, these realities that are beyond our awareness, comprehension, and consideration? I do think, though, you're really tuned into something. I don't know if you were abducted or not. I was just kidding, but you're definitely more informed than the average person. You definitely, you have some connection. My feeling, you have some more than mild interest connection to the phenomena. There's something.
Stop it.
No, something.
Back where we were at.
Yes, sorry.
I feel that that's a bit of unfair. I mean, if we have the capacity to ask the questions and to want to know the truth, then we deserve to have the answers for those questions and to be able to comprehend them.
I know, but the problem is, right, with what you just said, I don't think we have the capacity to ask the right questions. So we're asking questions, what's going on, but we need to ask a more sophisticated question. So like John Mack, who I quote a lot in this book and my next book and a lot of literature I write, he says, we're never going to understand this phenomenon because it mixes subjective, object, solid, wave and energy, particle and energy, time and space. In order to understand this phenomena, we need to have another way of knowing, another sense. So what is that other way of knowing? In my next exploration, it's a different way of thinking. It's more right brain, you know?
Yep.
It's the difference between, this is one of my theories, the difference between comprehension, comprehension. I think that's same in Spanish, versus apprehension, that we get a sense of it without without the logic of it. Apprehension means that we're not afraid of it or disliking it, we're apprehending it. So we're not,
I see.
It's outside the scope of saying, I know what this is, but about the thing. It's like quantum computing. It's computing probabilities. Apprehension is the probability. It's not saying this is the thing. This is the difference between Newtonian physics and quantum physics. Yeah, I don't think we are actually asking the right questions, because we don't drop into this. We want to make everything very solid. It's like this. It has to be like this. And the world is not solid. It's not like this. We could name things. That's a chair, that's a table, but in reality, you could use a chair as a table and a table as a chair. And it's like, we're very much identified with this way of defining the world because people want to know where they are. So, but if we're more fluid, if we're more in the apprehension of reality, as opposed to comprehension of reality, we're not collapsing the wave function. You know that term in quantum physics? When the wave function collapses, means you've measured it and you say, this is what it is, and that's all it can be. When you say this is what it is, but if you don't say this is what it is, then it can be many things at once. And this is how quantum computing works. And this is really the quantum revolution we're moving into, understanding the world as a quantum reality. And that, I feel, is the doorway to meeting these others, because they exist in a fluidity. This is just my theory. I haven't actually heard anyone say this, but they exist within a fluidity or multiplicity of possibilities. We have to think more in contradictory terms. It's not either or, it's both and, So I think the lesson, this is my thesis is not to say what these beings are, but to live in the uncertainty, live in the possibility, not the comprehension of reality, but the apprehension of multiple realities. But what I'm saying about ETs is that they somehow exist in this other realm of this being and non-being. I mean, they're beings, but it's not like, oh, you're meeting another person and this person. There may be some of that, but I'm looking at the bigger picture of the mind, of consciousness, and
I understand.
They are
Sorry,
beings.
I really do like to play the devil's advocate. Sorry
No,
if I'm
no,
putting
it's
you in a
okay.
strange position here.
No, you're not. I love that position.
Okay.
No, it's one of my favorite.
That's because you're too sweet.
No, I'm not that sweet. But that's because I think I don't have the answer and no one has the answer. So I'm just playing with the fact that we have not, at this point, after at least 75 years of studying the subject and trying to figure out what's been going on, and the government, I don't think, knows. That's one of the reasons they're keeping it a secret. The experts that I've talked to and put in this book, they don't know. They have a little piece. It's just my approach to trying to understand this, because we can't, it defies logic. So if it defies logic, let's consider it with the part of our awareness that is also defying logic, which is the right brain, which is the part that sees patterns. It doesn't see, well, sequence is a pattern, but it doesn't see step by step. The right brain looks at big pictures. It sees the forest, not the trees. So that's the approach, because it doesn't seem, from my research and everyone in this book, 12 people, that it's comprehensible in the way we could say, oh, you're a person there and these ships are coming. And it's what sort of Jacques Vallée is saying. It defies our notions of reality. It's what all the people started to study this phenomena. What's his name? J. Allen Hynek, who was really the first ufologist. He says, this has something to do with interdimensionality, psychic awareness, non-local. So I'm trying to look at this in a way the reader can start to make sense of whatever's going on here. And I'm not saying I have the answer, because I don't have the answer, but I'm also saying nobody has the answer. We only have pieces. It's like mosaic. You know, mosaics, you have to step back. You step back and you see what it looks like. But if you look at it up close, you just see little individual squares. But if you step back and look with another way of knowing, a different insight,
I like your approach, and I feel you lend this out, like put this out really, really nicely, step by step in the book, and it's really well explained. And if you, the reader is a person who never heard of such topics, it doesn't come across as really shocking. Like you you take the person by the hand and you say, hey, come with me, I'm going to take you for a walk. And I really do like the way you put this out on the book. Thank you. One thing, like, we can call maybe physical or tangible, we can speak about regarding your abduction.
Yes, please.
Which really shocked me, by the way, was this strange being you said was put in your arms for you to hold.
Yes, I know.
What was that?
I'm still trying to figure out what that was. So it was about a year after I had that trip cross country, and I'm actually happened to be sleeping at my parents' place, which, you know, I live in New York, but they had a house on Long Island. And I woken up in the middle of the night by something tickling me, tickling the inside of my leg and the inside of my thigh. And said, I felt that was like a little furry or feather or something. And I was sleeping alone. If I was sleeping with someone, it would have been different. But I was sleeping alone. And I woke up, and then I'm just given this little creature. And I think it was from my genetics that they took from a previous abduction. So they're taking our genetic material to make a hybrid race, part alien, part human. So there is a physicality to these things. It's just what I think the part that we're not understanding is the dimensional reality. But I do think there are entities, like you're an entity with beings, you know, I do think they are beings. So they handed me this little being, and I said, that's weird. I didn't have any connection to it at all. But I've read since a lot of people have had those experiences being, mine didn't look human. Mine looked much more like a little deer. But of course, like you said before, that was my mind just saying, you know, maybe. No, I think it was, because that's all I could. And I'm into this stuff, but that's all I could handle at the time.
But did you see any owls after that, or before that?
Not before that. Actually, when I had my regression, I did have a dream of owls, but it's not always owls. Sometimes it's deer. It's because it's the eyes. Yeah, lots of people describe like deer showing, or horses, but that's just a disguise for these ETs.
Well, at least, was it cute? Was it
what?
cute or scary?
Cute?
Or yeah.
No, it wasn't actually. I said, this is weird. Why am I holding this thing? So, but thank you for asking about that, because I don't know what to make of this whole phenomenon. But I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of thousands of people around the world really having similar experiences, and nobody understands it. I mean, if they
Which year was that?
That was in 1988. I had the abduction.
88.
I had the abduction in 87. I had this thing given to me in 88.
It makes sense because it was the time period where most of the abductions were referring to such things.
I know, you're right. You see how smart, see how much you know about this? Most people don't even know that.
No, you're just sweet.
No, because you're right. The abductions after the 1990s into the 2000s started to become less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from the 60s, maybe even before 60s, 70s, 80s, is when they were creating the hybrid race of beings. I think that's when it was really going on. And then some people report, even Marina Syringe reports seeing little alien beings, even as much as a couple of years ago. But I think the main experiment, if that's what it was, to create this hybrid race, happened during that, like from the 60s, from about 40 years. That's my guess.
Okay, and let's take that route. Let's say you were experimented on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
Well, some people have a hard time with that. I think if I'm going to be I'm very happy to be the father of an alien race. I feel honored. But really, at least I didn't have to pay child support, and all that.
Okay.
No, but
that's too much.
No,
I mean, like to have something taken from you without your consent, I meant. I
didn't mind because it's a way of contributing, I mean, yes, it's weird. Yes, people, it's like, you just don't do that to people without asking, like take their sperm and use it for experiments. But I know it's not a very nice thing. It's not, but I don't know, maybe I'm traumatized, but it's like, oh, wow, that's neat. I mean, sure, a lot of people resent that, yes. Especially,
but if it was your descendant, so to speak,
yes,
wouldn't it be logical to think that you would have felt some kind of connection to it?
I know, but the way it happened was so weird. I did have a dream though, a year, like in 85, the year before, of giving this little being and being very happy to have this connection. So I think we have more than one of these hybrid children. And I don't know, I didn't really feel a connection. I said, this is weird. I felt like that's the feeling I can still remember all these years later. It's like, why am I holding this little creature? So it's confusing. I think the whole thing, to kind of sum it up, it's a very confusing phenomena.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm guessing
yes,
you didn't feel any connection to it from your end.
Yes.
But did you feel this thing, so to use one term, this baby was trying to connect with you or was feeling connected to you?
That's a really intelligent question. I have not thought of that. No, it is really intelligent because I think you're right. You see how smart you are. No, I'm not just saying that because I never thought, I'm only saying that because I never thought that, yes, I think this baby was trying to connect with you. I think, yes, you just filled in a little piece of the puzzle there.
Okay, because I'm sure you've heard people in the same situations as yours, they sometimes say they felt like they were given those babies because they needed to have some connection between the babies and the mother or the father or whatever.
Right. But I have to say, up until this moment, I was so freaked out about it. I've never really considered, like, well, maybe the baby. And I have heard other people saying, yes, the babies need nurturing from their genetic parents. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like so ridiculous. Like, it's like, but yes, I think, yes, there was probably, I can feel that. I can actually feel that. And so they did need that. I think, and that's the fault though of not asking. And, you know, if the ETs would say, you know, hey, do you mind? We can take some of your genetics. We want, and maybe they did say that. I'm not just conscious. And would you like to have a visit once in a while from, I would say, sure, I'd love that, you know? So there's something they don't understand about human psychology also, that how people can be traumatized. They don't understand emotion. That's one of the reasons they're doing this hybrid experiment, is because they know if they're going to evolve, they need our capacity to feel emotion. And that's what these beings that they're creating, it's my theory, are. They have their great intelligence and our capacity to feel. So
I'm
that's
feeling a bit conflicted about that.
They have what about that?
A bit conflicted about that, because
why would they be conflicted?
First, the thing that you do not understand emotions doesn't give you like a free pass to keep traumatizing people.
I know, but I'm not defending them, but I'm saying they realize if they're going to survive, they need what we have, because they've reached a dead end in their evolution. Because if you just become pure intellect, you can't get to God, or you can't get to the source, or you can't get back to the soul.
That's not the way, at least, you get to go, disregarding traumatizing other people.
But by having no, I understand, but by having, see, we contain our emotional bodies within the cellular structure. You've heard about people who've had liver transplants, or there's a case of a young girl having a heart transplant from another young girl who was killed by somebody. The girl who received the heart from that other girl was able to identify the murderer because of the emotional values inside the cellular structure. So they realize that our cellular structures have, so that they felt, I'm not defending them, is the way they're going to get genetics and preserve the intelligence of what they have by mixing our very emotional DNA in with their very intelligent, and not come here and take over. I don't believe, some people say, oh, they're going to take over the planet. I don't think so. I think there's lots of planets they're going to be on. I mean, some people are very offended by taking their genetics and going and without that permission. But so I do think they need to check in and ask. I do definitely think it's not very nice.
This is the same conversation I had this with Paola Harris.
Yes. And what she said?
Oh, she was saying that perhaps we gave consent before coming to life, before being born. But what I was telling her is that how can I consent something which I'm not aware of? Besides, we can philosophically enter to discuss the ethics. If I do give you consent, and after that I do not remember having given you consent, is that morally correct?
No, I agree with you. It's not morally correct, but that's part of what they don't understand. That's part of, I think, it's part of the emotionality. It's like, you know, very straight-laced, very mental types. They say, oh, you gave your consent. Oh, we've already said. It's like, so they don't respect. And I think getting our emotional value, there's at least a lesson where they can learn what respect is. You know, I think there's a chance for them to change.
I'm sure that if they just asked, they would have many volunteers to do whatever.
I think so. And maybe they asked, I don't know, because I don't remember them asking me.
Okay.
But maybe they are asking when you're in this altered state. Of course, a lot of people are traumatized. They didn't ask Betty and Barney Hill. They were traumatized. I think Barney had a lot of ulcers because his sperm was taken and his genetics, and you know, people are very disturbed by this. So Yes, I agree with you. I can't defend, I don't know why they're doing this and not asking. So you're right. I think you bring up some really good points and points that need to be addressed if we're going to integrate these beings into our world, because there's something we don't understand about them, obviously, but there's something they don't understand about us. And I do think the hybrid program was a way to reach us and get what we have, because we have a lot that they don't have. We have this incredible capacity to heal, and they obviously don't, by their not very friendly bedside manner, you know. So I think there is stuff we would benefit from by having open contact, like energy technology. You know, we definitely would benefit by, you know, having this unlimited resources, by knowing the true history, by having advances in medicine, and maybe just feeding the population of the planet. But we have to hold on to our humanity. This is something Marina Serena, I have to honor her, was really standing up for her humanity. And that's really, really someone who's she defected. She was a hybrid that came back to the human side in a way. All these are really good questions, because this is like the whole next level. I mean, beyond, most people don't even think there's something out there. Now we're going deeper and deeper into the level. Not only are they out there, but they're here, they're visiting us, they're taking us there. You move using our genetics. That's, you know, that's levels and levels away from the mainstream, which is fine. I'd like to cover all those levels, but, you know, this book is about getting people just to the first level. And then, you know, beyond that is next. But you're asking the important questions, because this is another reason why the government is not saying, guess what, we have company, because if we've got company, then what about the abductions? How come you're not protecting? We spend, you know, $5 or $10 billion on a defense budget, and you can't protect at least the American people or even the world population from these intruders. Was the name of Bud Hopkins' book, The Intruders, but yeah, yes, but so it brings up a lot of questions, and that's why we have to push the government. One of the reasons I wrote this book is so people can come forward and say, what? And this is what happened with the news media. You know, in 2017, when the New York Times released that story, it's like, what? This is real? It's not just a joke? So there's a lot of questions. We're at a time of, when this comes out, and I think it will, some of it this year, it's already out, but the deeper part, it's like, we have to reevaluate our connections to each other, our connections to these beings, our true understanding of the history of the universe, our history of human civilization. Maybe we were put here as an experiment, as a genetic experiment. I don't know. I'm not saying we were. I'm just saying that's something that is possible. There's so much we are just oblivious to. We walk around, like I said, in those little boxes because the government doesn't want us to know. The scientists don't want us to know. We have to stand up for the truth. The ETs don't even want us to know. So we're getting it from both sides. We're not telling you, they're not telling us. So we have to demand from the ETs, as well as the government and the military and the politicians and everyone who knows something, to lay it all,
is the word.
Demand and put it all out on the table so it becomes a worldwide examination. I think that's the best way, and that's the most exciting way. Imagine the world coming together when we look at this situation as of a relationship to these other beings and figure out what's the best future for humanity. You know, at the end of the book, I quote Bruce Lipton. You know who Bruce Lipton is?
No.
The biologist, Bruce Lipton. He has a theory of biology where he says, we are not humans until we create this humanity, one humanity. Then we realize we're all part of the same the same entity. So when we realize we're all connected, we become a singularity. And then we realize from that singularity, we're connected to these other consciousnesses, which becomes a superorganism. So our consciousness, their consciousness creates the next level of consciousness. You know what I mean? So they're waiting on us. Maybe there's other planets they're waiting on too, but they're waiting on us to come together in unity. And I think we're more united. I know there's awful wars and people are starving and it's horrible things happen, but I feel we're more united now as a planetary civilization in a good way, not one world government, but one planet of people than we ever have been before, with the internet, with these exchanges, with, feeling able to look at you thousands of miles away. We're one planet. But I love your questions though, because I think that, like I said, I think they're very intelligent and it helps me think. I think it's good to challenge your interviewer, E, because I like that challenge, because you help me think about it more and deeper. So let's continue our conversation.
Well, my questions just do come from a place of my own curiosity, like I want to know. And if the question comes up to me, it's not because I wanted to challenge you, but because I wanted to know.
I think you want to know because you do have an inside handle on this whole phenomenon more than you know.
All right. Now, I'm really, really, really enjoying this conversation. You wouldn't believe how much I am. So one last thing I wanted to tell you.
Yes.
Your book is beautifully written. It's a collection of many, many intelligent authors, and it is very well composed. I like the approach, and the message is clear and it's easy to read. Now, to my audience, guys, you know that normally I'm not recommending things or books every day. When I do recommend something, it's because I read it myself and I liked it. And this is what happens with this book, which, by the way, it is available on Amazon or bookstores here in Spain. I will leave links in the description box. You can
En contacto in español. Sí.
Now, you can find Alan in his YouTube channel, New Realities. And I don't know if there is anything else you want to say before closing.
My book is up for a book award and you have to vote for it. I'll send you the link. You could put that in the chat, and you could, if you like my book, you could vote for it for a big international book award in the US. I mean, it's international voting, so yes.
All right.
Yes.
Then you will have that link down below as well.
But let's have a conversation about remote viewing, okay? Because that's another topic where you can.
I would be very pleased to have that conversation.
Okay, maybe you could come to my remote, although it's probably late in Spain. I'm doing a class in February. So I'll give you a link for that too. I'll send you that, okay?
Fantastic. So thank you so much for being here, for speaking with me, Alan.
Sonia, you're so good. You're good because, no, you're good. You're not just asking questions because you have a show and you want to do this. No, you're thinking about it. I appreciate the questions.
Of course I am. Again, I really did enjoy it. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And you don't know, but you do know that normally I always say the same sentence for closing up the videos. I'm going to try to do this in English. So here we speak about many, many weird things, but it's not the weirdest thing ever. Bye.
It's not?
I
thought it was. I thought it was the weirdest thing. What's the weirdest thing ever?